Appraisals versus inspections. Just what are they used for? Why should you get both? Aren't they simply just a waste of time and money? I understand your dilemma. I've seen and heard it before. Appraisals versus inspections. That's what we're talking about today, and we're starting right after this. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Bob Wybrecht, Missouri licensed realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty Gundaker in St. Louis, Missouri since 2002. Let's get started on today's topic, the reason why you came, appraisals versus inspections. Both are used for protection. No, not that kind. Protection for the home buyer. That is what is provided with an appraisal and an inspection. How do these protect the home buyer? That's a good question. Let's get started with the appraisal first. Appraisals are typically required by the buyer's lender to see if the home is a good deal, an okay deal, or a bad deal. It really depends on the buyer's perspective. The appraisal is typically arranged by the lender through a neutral third party for a fee. The lender uses it to ensure the value of the property is present to back up the home loan for the buyer. The appraisal fee, oh, yeah, about that. That is usually on the buyer's closing statement, and it's one of the fees that the buyer will pay at closing. Here in the St. Louis, Missouri market, and using the St. Louis Realtors residential sales contract as a reference, there is no specified time to obtain an appraisal. However, it is part of the financial contingency, which, unless otherwise specified, has a 30-day period after the acceptance date of the residential sales contract. To further protect a buyer's interest, the St. Louis Realtors has an appraisal rider which can be added to the residential sales contract. The rider addresses both contingent on financing and non contingent on financing situations. The rider includes respective dates when to act by if the home fails to appraise for the offer price. An important note, the appraisal rider is used with conventional loans only. There are different riders for the FHA and VA types of loans in this market. Check with your real estate professional for local rules and regulations in your area. What does the appraiser do for the buyer and lender? In short, the appraisal reviews the value of the home. The appraiser will visit the home, check the overall condition of the home, confirm the number of beds, baths in the home. They will measure the square footage of the home, take photos of each room and of the overall home. When the field work is finished, the appraiser will compare the subject home to recent sales to be used as comparables. They will add estimated values for features such as an additional room or a deck when the subject home has one and when the comparables do not. Or they will subtract an estimated value for a subject home with no additional bedroom or deck in this example. In the end, establishing an appraised value for the subject home. As I mentioned earlier, the lender orders the appraisal to ensure the value of the home is sufficient to secure the home loan. It is also an important tool to give the buyer peace of mind that they are not overpaying for the home. What happens if the home doesn't appraise? That's a great question. The buyer would have one of three choices to make. One, pay the difference, meaning they will pay the difference at closing. Two, ask the seller to split the difference with the buyer. Or three, ask the seller to adjust the purchase price. If the seller refuses to, the buyer may have the option to terminate the contract. All these choices are time bound, meaning they need to be acted upon in a time specified in the appraisal rider. Check with your local buyer's agent for details in your area on this. Now, moving on, home inspections. The home inspection is to check the overall condition of the home from the roof down to the foundation. Like the appraiser, the home inspector is a neutral third party. They are typically hired by the buyer to inspect the subject home. Home inspectors can be found online or from recommendations from the buyer's agent. Referring to the St. Louis Realtors residential sales contract, unless otherwise specified, the buyer has 10 days, known as the inspection period, to have the home inspected after the acceptance date of the residential sales contract. What inspections can be ordered? Well, there's a writer for that too. It's called the Buyer's Inspection Authorization. It lists a number of inspections, any of which the buyer can order if they feel necessary. Here in the St. Louis, Missouri market, we usually see the building inspection, a termite pest inspection, a radon inspection, a sewer lateral or septic inspection, and if the home is so equipped, natural gas or propane inspections. If the home is serviced by a well instead of public water, then a well inspection should be ordered. Each of these inspections are typically done by different inspection companies who specialize in that particular inspection. In some cases, the building inspection company can arrange the other requested inspections for the buyer. It's critical to keep in mind that the building inspection reports may be multiple pages long. This does not mean the subject house is about to collapse. The inspectors typically will find a list of items to be addressed. It is up to the buyer to decide what, if any, items to address with the seller with the recommendations from the buyer's agent. But ultimately, it's the buyer's decision. Once the buyer has decided how to proceed, an inspection notice report is sent to the seller side. It is critical that the inspection report and the inspection notice report are sent to the seller within the time specified on the sales contract. In this example, that is 10 days after the acceptance date. On the inspection notice report, the buyer decides on one of three options. The options are: one, take the home as is, thus ending the inspection period; two, exit the contract with their earnest money returned; or three, request repairs to the home from the seller. If this option is selected, the buyer and seller enter into a 10-day inspection resolution period to negotiate repairs to the home. While there are other differences between the appraisal and the inspection on what actions the buyer should take, these are the most common and greatest interest to the buyer at this point. Now you know the difference between an appraisal and an inspection. But did you know there's even more to explore about the St. Louis region? Click right up here because I made a video called 10 Things to Know About Fenton, Missouri. Let's go watch it together. I'm sure you'll find it useful and informative. As always, make it a great day, and I will see you next Wednesday.